Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode 252 of the Mastering Dungeons podcast. I am back from Gen Con. I'm Shawn Merwin. I am here with flashing gang signs, I think. Teos Abadia. Oh, you're doing the 252.
252,
Teos
baby.
Abadia.
That's how we roll. It's all 252 vibes all day.
Until next week, yeah.
Yeah, well, this is the only show. If you're following on social media, this is the only show where you can do the 252 sign. So,
okay, yeah, I agree. So we're both exhausted, sick, tired, all the above. So this is going to be one heck of a show. How you doing? Did you miss Gen Con, Teos?
I did. I took solace. I never planned on going, but I took solace that if I had planned on going, I would have had to cancel because there's no way I'm inflicting this on other human beings. I did go see a specialist. They concluded I was a wuss and I should shut up and take it. But they gave me some medications that were, behind a counter. So that counts for something. Am I better? No, but I am more medicated. So yeah, I don't know. But it's like anything else, you see a wall in front of you. What do? Climb harder. That's what we're going to do today, Shawn.
We're going to climb harder.
Yeah, but you were Gen Con. You climbed.
I climbed, and I had a pre-climb because the night before we left for Gen Con at 7 in the morning, I was on the Tabletop Journeys podcast with show backers Josh and Liwanika, and they're great. They are great designers and they're fun and they ask amazing questions and they had their own insights, and the show's up already. So if you want to go check out Tabletop Journeys podcast, please go check it out. And they're just finishing up their own project. It is called The Traveler's Guide to Factions. There's a link to it, to the backer kit in our show notes. So go check it out. It's the Tabletop Journeys podcast and The Traveler's Guide to Factions. So I sort of had I had a warm up, if you will, for Gen Con.
Fantastic. Yeah, fun.
Thanks to that. And we got there, and it was as Gen Con always is. It was packed. It was loud. It was exciting. It was expensive. It was thrilling. It was exhausting. It was all of those things. I cannot count the number of times someone came up to me and said, "Love the show. I listened to it on the way here. I met the mathematician. Brian King was there as always. Krishna Simosa Simosa as always was working. So many folks. Nerdronomicon.com.
Nice.
And the Edmund. So many folks.
Great.
And then people just, I would say something on the show floor and someone, their head would whip around and they would recognize my voice, which is terrifying now.
Internationally known on the microphone.
Well, no. But again, so thank you if you came up and said hi and introduced yourself. And I'm sorry if I was frazzled at the time because my natural state is now frazzled. But it's so great to see all the folks out there. Grim Hollow, the Grim Hunt organized play campaign started off with a bang. People met Betsy, our great beast puppet, which was part of the epic. That was fun. Great game masters came to us from Bald Man Games. Some we recruited ourselves, and some just happened to sign up. Wonderful time. So many brand new people to Gen Con DMing. I can't even begin to say what that experience is like. And interviews, meetings, games, all of it. It's quite a treat.
Wow.
If you are a gaming nerd and you have the resources, at least once in your lifetime, you really should check it out because for the nerd game fandom, it is unbelievable.
Yeah. I went from, I think, 2005 to whenever it shifted to Origins. It got a little too much for me in terms of the hassle of getting games. Probably because I was in the days when, if you had an Excel spreadsheet, you could get events faster than other people and copy paste them in and hit go. And now it's all wish list and everything. So it's a lot fairer system, but it means you probably don't get the hotel room you want. You probably don't get the events you want. And that rigmarole added up to where even though I have really great friends that go there and I'd love to go, it was just enough of a friction point that I have not been for several years. But I love vicariously looking at all the pictures, all the interviews, the live streams, and just soaking it in because I know how much fun it is when you're there.
They're building a new hotel right across the street from the convention center in that Crown Plaza area over that way.
Mm-hmm.
And they said it's supposed to be ready by 2027, and not just like 1,000 more rooms or something wild like that, but more convention space from that hotel. So it's going to be probably growing even more. So,
yeah,
it's
amazing,
it's a,
amazing.
it's a whole thing, as they say.
Fantastic. Well, I mean, Gen Con was so huge. It came with enormous news that everyone's going to hear in our news segment. And also our main segment will kind of take off on that energy of that many companies were projecting at that event. So I'm looking forward to that. But Shawn, I hear we have listeners. I don't know if that's true. It could be a rumor.
It is true. We have listeners. We have a lineup of questions here, but I want to get to one particular one this week, and then we will move on and get some more next week. Ethan, coming to us via our Patreon Discord, who asked this very simple question that's pretty deep, though. Given all the 5e adventures that are re-releases, has Wizards run out of adventure ideas? And my first response would be to say yes, they have.
Oh wow!
Because the entire entertainment industry has run out of ideas, right? Because more and more we are just getting sequels and retreads and reboots and all of those things. And I don't think it's that we've actually run out of ideas in the industry. But I think there are only so many ideas out there, and a lot of things are now variations on that idea. We have to operate in an ecosystem within the industry where nostalgia doesn't just sell, it's often preferred. So if Wizards of the Coast is going to release like some new, we'll say an apocalyptic setting, they're going to say, oh, this is an apocalyptic setting and this is the experience. And what are most people going to say who have played D&D for 30 years?
Why didn't you give me Dark Sun?
Why don't you give me Dark Sun?
Sure.
I love Dark Sun. And by not doing that, they are risking that audience. And the people who are new to the industry have never seen Dark Sun. So that is new to them.
Right.
And so it's a marketing, it is a management decision that is hard to not make. And so that's my quick and simple answer to that question.
Yeah, so that's interesting. I would have said no, but maybe because I'm an optimist. I totally pick up what you're putting down, and I agree with you. There is a lot of that. There's that nostalgia pull. There's that you want to leverage your past things. You want to maintain your old copyrights and intellectual property and all that. But even if I think about Dark Sun, I can immediately get excited by million stories I've never told in the setting, despite running it most of my life.
For sure.
And the problem also is when you look at a product, right, then you'd say, well, what should that introductory Dark Sun experience be? And now you go, well, there's some really classic ones that work so well. And I'd immediately point to, say, the Freedom Adventure, or any number of classics that have existed in there, even some of what we did in Ashes of Athos, and say, you want to do it like this, because that creates such a great introduction to the world. And I think it's not that there can't be new ideas or aren't new enough ideas. It's that it can be hard to tell them because of that, right? You're writing whatever Chris Perkins we're going to talk about is doing and Jeremy are doing. You have to think about this sort of accessibility, and that's going to lend itself through the filter of what has worked before. Should we not apply that to Daggerheart when we create, an intro experience, right?
Right. And we have to reckon with the fact that there are ideas that are not the same, but might seem the same. So I was at the booth for Ghostfire talking about the transformation system that we have. And someone rolled their eyes and said, yeah, you're just taking Daggerheart's transformations. and Daggerheart just 24 hours before announced that they were having these transformation things. And I'm like, we've been doing this in our books for 8 years. And so it's that sort of thing. It's like, did we run out of ideas? No, we had an idea,
Yeah.
and someone else had an idea. And whether they knew about our transformation system and thought, okay, that's a good idea, let's do it for us, or if they did it completely tangentially, having never heard of it,
Yeah.
doesn't matter,
Right.
right? It's an idea is cheap. It's the implementation of that idea that is the meat of what game design and what adventure design is.
Yeah, I don't love that concept of ideas are cheap. I think some people
Mhm,
really have great ideas, right? Like
mhm,
Will Doyle has great ideas. Stacey
for
Allen,
sure.
right? The two of them
Yep,
together have these ideas that are just fantastic, and then they implement on them.
right.
But their baseline ideas are just better than most ideas I have or anyone else has. And so has. And so it's. But yes, it's the how you do it, and I think maybe going back to a part of what Ethan is asking here, have they run out of ideas is maybe a reflection of the fact that what they put together didn't resonate with you, right? Like going to Keep on the Borderlands is a retread, but you could have some really neat, fresh, awesome. Like
Mhm,
when we ran the D&D Next
mhm,
ages ago before 5e, we ran
yep,
Keep on the Borderlands.
sure.
And we used that very old concept, but people wove pretty neat ideas into it. We had things
Right,
like, the hobgoblin tribes getting married and stuff like that.
right.
And this created really fun experiences that were introductory, new to the
Mhm.
system type experiences, super fun. And so it is possible to deliver on these things, right? To where it feels fresh, even though it's classic or whatever. And
Yep. Yeah. Great question. I could talk about this all
yeah,
day long, but we do need to get to this news
you're right.
because they're coming out of Gen Con is a whole bunch, starting with the Forgotten Realms and DLC. So there's two upcoming Forgotten Realms books, Adventures in Faerun and Heroes of Faerun. And in addition to the books, that it will obviously be on D&D Beyond, but if you get the quote ultimate bundle on D&D Beyond for the premium price of $160, you get both books as well as digital only downloadable content. Teos, what is this digital only downloadable
Well,
content?
and maybe the funniest thing to me about their most interesting, fascinating, I'll say for Megan's benefit, Megan J, how are you doing? That, this story has kind of come out in snippets and bits as if they don't know exactly what they're doing here, or it took them some time to phrase it together. And now finally, like even if you look at if you look at the product page, you don't get much information, but there is a blog post on D&D Beyond
Mhm.
that finally really tells us what these things are, that there are two things initially, a third one that hasn't even yet been disclosed, and then that we will actually be able to get them later separately. This is a discounted price. So you do not have to buy the ultimate bundle, but it has taken weeks of people asking what even is this to figure this all out.
Yeah. So here's what is been revealed so far. Netheril's Fate is a digital expansion that lets adventurers journey back in time to one of the Forgotten Realms' most storied empires. The expansion includes tools you need to play adventures set in ancient Netheril, a long fallen empire in the Forgotten Realms. So you can step through time traveling gates to explore the arcane wonders of High and Low Netheril, complete with maps, gazetteers, new magic items previously lost to history. Uh, so you can look at the events that shaped their history and face the monsters, including the dreaded Faerun that have made it through several editions of D&D.
And I'd say, Shawn, if you are a lore hound, a classic Forgotten
Mhm.
Realms fan, boy, this is for you. You want to sink your teeth into this. Ancient Netheril is something that gets, those kinds of lore
Right.
heavy, long-standing Forgotten Realms DMs excited, right? This is not Sword Coast everyday stuff we've retread over and over. This is going back in time, literally, to the super exciting, what went down in the time of flying cities and all of that. I love it. I hope it gets more than say these little one page
Right.
DMG type adventures, because I would love to explore Ancient Netheril too. So I'm excited to see what's here and what I can do with it. Awesome. I'm excited.
And then you can finish the Icewind Dale adventure where you go back in time. Maybe
Oh,
that's
right.
a
Yeah.
maybe that's a
Yeah.
little bit of a
Totally.
tie-in.
It's true.
Yeah.
Yep.
We also get Astarion's Book of Hungers, which is, quote, vampire themed, where dungeon masters and players alike will find new character options, the Dampier species, which you can also get in Grim Hollow, uh,
Oh,
18
you guys
feats,
copied this
and
book. Oh, I see.
right.
I see.
18
Yeah.
feats and three
Smart.
vampiric backgrounds, all shared by Astarion himself. And for DMs, you will get new monster stat blocks for devil worshipping vampires, bite-sized adventures where players team up with Astarion, and fully detailed maps and backstory for Astarion's favorite tavern from before the events of Baldur's Gate 3.
Wow. I mean, good grief. Both these things sound like I would just want them on my bookshelf normally. I don't know why this is digital only. I also worry that like designers have been working on this, so either it got cut or like I don't. I wish this were on store shelves.
Mm-hmm. And then a third digital expansion is yet to be revealed. The main books are available on November 11th, and the Netheril book will be a week later. And then the third digital extra will be on the 25th, 2 weeks later. So that's what we have learned.
Yeah,
Anything else about that?
there is one. So you'll be able to buy these separately if you don't buy the ginormous Ultimate Bundle thing. There is one thing that is unique to the bundle, and that is an animated Oasis map, this Dalabad Oasis map. So presumably this is a Kalimsham themed map that you can get on D&D maps. That is only available, they say, if you buy the bundle. So that is the only thing that's exclusive. And I want to say when I first heard this story, I was ready to kind of rail on this DLC type stuff, bundling exclusive stuff. If all they have is a map that's exclusive, I'm totally happy because like I love this. Give you a discount, give you a reason to buy the whole bundle, but you can get it separately. Thumbs up from me. That's the kind of thing I want to see. I don't want to see exclusives or whatever. I can handle a map, dice, stuff like that. That's fine. Character sheet frames, but I don't want books to be exclusive. I actually don't want them to be digital only. If they're digital only, I want them in PDF. But I can tolerate, I can applaud where this is, Shawn. It gets my full seal of a almost full. If PDF is all I'm left really wanting.
Okay, cool. Well, we'll come back to Wizards of the Coast in our main segment today, where we're going to take a look at the landscape that's changing around the RPG industry. But we got more news. Speaking of big releases, we got Draw Steel PDF releases, and the books are off to print. So congratulations to the MCDM team for the release of Draw Steel. They released the player's books, the monster book, and then also a starter set adventure, as well as a full starter treatment for a full adventure. They also had news from Gen Con where Chessex had specific Draw Steel dice that include a free copy of the Dalian Tomb starter set, which Teos thinks is a great idea.
Yeah, I mean, like that's smart. You buy dice, you have an adventure inside. And what I thought was it was fun. You were talking about this, oh, you copied this idea from somebody, right? So I watched a video where I forget it was Colville or someone else on the team was saying like, we think this is a really novel idea. Well, wait for it because someone else also had this idea, the Cosmere group, which I thought was hilarious. So, ideas, right? But I did sit down and open up the PDF. I both bought it and I'm a patron, and I got a copy that was given to me, and I sat down with one of those copies. I'm gonna have two to give away to folks on our Discord, so I got to figure out how to do that. But so hold me to it, Discord folks. But I am looking at this PDF and reading it, and I gotta say I love the way it read. It has a really nice voice to the writing, the way it speaks to you and gets you excited about the type of role playing. And I've read some of these words before in the playtest packet, but the final version is even better. And I got to say, just reading those first few pages, I was like, yes, let's Draw Steel. It was really exciting.
Cool. Now, you contributed to this project. That is correct?
I contributed in minor ways. So it has monsters that I did in previous works. That is the
Mhm.
actual physical, you can touch part of what I did. And then what I also contributed was in the experiment we did with MCDM and I on writing what was going to be your character life path. And we
Mhm.
concluded this does not need to be in the book in the originally envisioned form. And sometimes that's all you do is contribute yeah, let's not do this.
Right.
You know, I'm allowed to speak about it. Literally, the first thing I said when we talked about the project is, I don't know that you want this, like what you're asking for. And that is the
Right.
conclusion we reached at the end is, no, you don't actually want this. It's too big. It could be an awesome second book or, auxiliary book,
Right.
but too huge a system. And so I contributed something that you don't see, the absence of something. But you, Shawn, I believe you have tangible bits in this book.
I do have a few tangible bits, mostly in the starter adventure. I did work on the Dalian Tomb expanded adventure, and a few things in the main book itself. Some of the player facing rules, nothing hugely designing a new system or anything. I took everything that they'd done and added a few things here and there. But very fun to work on. Incredible to work with James at Tricasso, who was the
He's,
lead designer on this process, and the other folks there. Scott Gray,
oh,
editor,
yeah,
huge fan and friend. So very excited for this to come out and to see everyone's reaction to it.
yeah, absolutely.
And since we're talking about new releases, Daggerheart's been out for a bit now. And we were asking, how much is Critical Role into this game? Is it just something that they did and now it's going to be back to focusing on the streaming shows and, Amazon Prime and that?
Right.
Well, I think we found out at Gen Con how serious they are about supporting it. Before we even get to the game, we were going to start off with some Critical Role news that Brennan Lee Mulligan is going to GM campaign 4 of Critical Role, which means Matt Mercer gets to be a player.
Mm-hmm.
And the first thing I noticed was in the announcement, they didn't say Brennan Lee Mulligan will DM
Mm,
campaign 4. It said Brennan Lee Mulligan will GM
GM.
campaign 4, game master. And that
Mm-hmm.
made me wonder right away. The question that everyone's asking is, what are they going to play?
Yeah.
Daggerheart,
Yeah.
D&D, something else?
Yeah.
We don't
And then
know.
it could be either. Both would make perfect sense, right? Like,
Right.
there is already the Age of Umbra campaign, right? Using that campaign frame that Matt Mercer is DMing with the Critical Role cast. So it's not like
Yep.
they're vanishing or anything like that, or he's not DMing or anything like that. And so as a player, maybe it's great to play D&D and keep a toe in those waters and have that flexibility to create D&D products if they want, maybe even. Or maybe it makes sense to have a second Daggerheart campaign under a different DM. It could go GM. It could go either way. I think it's all great, right? And this seems to be like people are making this sort of big news, and I'm like, it's just one campaign. It's fine, like it can be
Yeah.
whatever. It's not. I don't think the knife doesn't hang on the balance of this, right on the knife's edge. This is
Yeah.
not the knife's edge. I think the biggest thing to me is, as much as this may be fan-facing big news,
Mhm.
it's that exactly what you started with. Just last week, you and I were asking, is Critical Role really serious about Daggerheart? Like, are they really going to put, all of their efforts behind it to market this and try to make it huge? Because that's a daunting, difficult task. You've got to
Mhm.
really do serious work with partnerships and community and all of these resources to do that. Are you going to do it? And boy, we got that answer.
Yeah. Now, don't give away the whole next segment here, Teos. We
No,
got to
that's
pace
true. That's
ourselves.
true. Pace
Okay.
ourselves.
So here we go. What went on at Gen Con? Well, Darrington Press had a huge presence. The Ghostfire Gaming booth was kitty corner to the Darrington Press booth.
Ooh.
And the Darrington Press booth was busy all the time. Uh, they had announcements in packed halls with Matt Mercer and Spencer Stark and Elise Resendez and lots of people discussing all of the different initiatives they were going to have. Teos, you wrote this in the show notes, but I'm going to ask you. According to Daggerheart and Darrington Press, how many Daggerheart characters have been made on Demiplane alone? So Demiplane is the digital tool set that Darrington Press uses for Daggerheart. So
Yeah.
how many?
Well, so I've made 3 or 4, right? I heard this number, but I tried to quickly in my brain kind of think to myself, and I came up with, maybe there's been like 20,000 or something like that. That would be like an impressive number worth mentioning. Because I'm thinking like how many people are on Demiplane, bought it on Demiplane, making characters, like what could it be? And they shared this number, Shawn, and it blew my mind. Tell us.
Yeah. It was 500,000. 500,000 characters have been made on Demiplane. And like you said, yeah, that's because I made 3 or 4. And
Right.
so even if everybody makes 2 or 3 that's there, that's a lot of folks just on one platform.
Yeah.
Not even counting hardcover sales and all that. Yeah, amazing to start.
Yeah, and Greg Bills in one of his interviews at Gen Con spoke about how they can gather data from D&D Beyond. This is the same, right? This is 500,000 points of data saying which are your favorite characters, your favorite ancestries, right? Like all of that, classes. So this is amazing for Darrington Press to get this kind of level of support on a number of levels.
For sure. And then they announced more stuff, right? We know that Chris Perkins and Jeremy Crawford are going to be working on something. Now we know what they're working on. Jeremy Crawford is taking point on a full setting for Daggerheart inside a hellishly terrifying genre, while Chris Perkins will be weaving tales spanning campaign frames to a wider interconnected adventure supplement. Uh, Jeremy said that he's motivated to show how a campaign frame will become a full campaign, and Chris says he wants to create the kind of campaign experience that fuels a larger communal experience the way that D&D had.
And I got to pause and mention that we were having this conversation just this last week on our Discord channel of, people were saying like, well, there is no official Daggerheart adventure other than the one in the quick start that you can download. And what you really want is a campaign that pulls people together, that everybody knows what's going on the way they did with Tyranny of Dragons or the first few 5e. And Perkins even kind of said, well, I come from D&D and I want to create that kind of a communal experience, right? An adventure that everybody talks about. And he mentioned Curse of Strahd, and he had the hilarious comment of, where he would hear all the ways that people defeated Strahd, including nipple clamps, which made everybody in the audience laugh. But that's brilliant, right? That's exactly what I think everybody's been wondering is, are you going to create this kind of touch point community gathering? And yes, they are. And showcasing how, another question you and I asked on the show, how do you go from a campaign frame to an actual full-fledged campaign? And this is going to show you too. But that wasn't all.
That wasn't all. You need more worlds built, or you need more campaigns to latch onto. Well, Together Studios, with partners Jed Ellis and Keith Baker, will be creating a campaign themselves. They want it to inspire others to build on the campaign and make it their own, not just an encyclopedia, they say, but a complete toolbox.
Fantastic. I mean, I love the two of them. They're in Portland. I get to see them sometimes. I love their creativity. I mean, we've seen it in Eberron. We've seen it in any number of awesome board and card games they've put together. So the two of them working on this, fantastic.
And then we're going to get, as a Kickstarter, the Daggerheart class packs. They want to scale in interest. So there will be 76 cards in each of these class packs, covering all 10 levels of play. So we wondered, people ask, why not Kickstarter? Why not Kickstarter? Why not Kickstarter? It's not that they're immune or anti-Kickstarter, obviously, because this is something that will happen.
Yeah, really neat. And so we'll see how that Kickstarter goes, how huge it gets. That'll be really, really interesting to see, because we've had no window into the level of sales that Daggerheart has. We just keep hearing it's sold out. They said at the Gen Con presentation, they said that they've sold out globally multiple times, that the website keeps getting more hits than they could imagine, and have to work with their ISP. So all very interesting, but this Kickstarter will give us some numbers on these class packs. It'll be interesting. And then they announced that they're going to have a homebrew kit. This is available for free on the site. Spencer Stark talked about this, so you can go to daggerheart.com/homebrew kit and you get design insights and resources to help it make it easier to create for the game. Whether you're a DM or you're looking at creating an official supplement as part of their licenses, that's pretty neat.
And one of the other questions we had was, since this is a brand new game and homebrewing is a huge part of any RPG,
Mm-hmm.
would that community be able to spring up and sustain itself with a brand new game? And here they are answering that question by saying, let us give you some tips on how to do it well.
Really cool. Really cool.
Yeah.
And then they announced something else that has been, I think, making waves as a genre of interest in our hobby. A romantasy campaign frame based on Tusk Love called With Love and Magic is going to come out next year. So they spoke a little bit about that. They will also have 3 Daggerheart dice partnerships, not 1, but 3. They have minis on Hero Forge, so they're creating the custom ancestries that you wouldn't otherwise be able to play with. So you can get, ribbits on there. An Art of Daggerheart book that is also a type of making of book that goes into the design insights, why they chose to create it this way or that way, Spencer said. So that should be interesting. We heard, as we mentioned earlier, that the Age of Umbra will have a new streaming campaign, right? So that will get a second season.
Yep, and on the Void, where the playtest material is provided, Spencer Stark and Rowan Hall, who I got a brief chance to say hello and thank you to, provided a new playtest for the transformations, which I mentioned earlier. 6 transformations are included: werewolves, vampires, ghosts, reanimated, shapeshifters, and demigods. They said that many of these releases are darker in nature, but it reflects the material they decided they didn't want to put into the core, so they held it back. And it doesn't necessarily mean any dark vibe release is coming. It's just the playtest material that was next up.
Yep, fair.
And yet again, the Daggerheart creator license has been updated. Companies don't seem to understand how variance creates uncertainty for players.
Yeah, that's my ad lib to the show notes, Shawn. But I really, it's like, wait, another, if I were trying to publish a product, I would worry a bit that I think like 3 times in 4 weeks there's been an update to this license, and it's generally improving. So it's not like it's bad, but it just at some point, could you have thought of all this earlier? And then I know that this thing's stable, right? They've added the Alchemy VTT. They introduce a formal policy for the use of campaign frames in actual play content, clarifies monetization for actual play content, streaming videos, and podcasts, and protects personal private play from being considered public sharing under the license. So, generally good things, but it's just this kind of moving target around the license. And so I would love for them to just devote the resources to get this licensed into the place where it can live for a year and people can create stably under it. And honestly, to react to the things that we've been saying about the license, because the license is very so. We just say that as a catch-all term to not get into the nitty-gritty of it. But it would be nice if they would just, answer the bigger questions creators have had, and yeah, and then let it be.
And did you had mentioned Cosmere here in the show notes. What do we get from them at Gen Con?
Yeah, I mean, I think that Cosmere is just releasing, right? You and I are starting to take a look at it. So there wasn't the enormous amount of information that we saw for Daggerheart, but Brotherwise Games announced a miniatures box at Gen Con that comes with 20 minis, a full color map, and a first step level 0 adventure. So again, concurrent ideas, right? Similar idea to the brilliant idea that Draw Steel also had. So you can get a set of dice or a set of minis and get the adventure as well, which is pretty neat. So we've got a link to that in the show notes from an ICV2 mention.
Yep. We had the ENNie Awards, and we're going to give the highlights of that. We had Product of the Year going to the One Ring Moria from Free League Publishing. The silver went to Mythic Bastionland from Bastionland Press. For Best Game, gold went to Triangle Agency from Haunted Table, and the silver went to His Majesty the Worm from Exalted Funeral Press. Best Rules, we have, again, Triangle Agency from Haunted Table, and silver, again, His Majesty the Worm from Exalted Funeral. Fan favorite publisher, not surprisingly, Free League. And you can see the full awards at ENNie-Awards.com.
Yeah, and Shawn, I gotta say, I really love that Moria book. I'm holding it up right here, The One Ring. Gorgeous, gorgeous book, really fantastic. It Looking at all of these nominees, there are a lot that are sort of smaller publishing companies. I think that was a theme for sure in what I'm seeing here. Um, it was interesting to see, for me, things that stood out were the Monty Python RPG got silver for their DM screen, which is amazing, and silver for best writing for the game. And that's by Exalted Funeral Press. And Exalted Funeral also makes His Majesty the Worm, which we heard about, and Land of Eam, which won Best Family Game and Best Monster. So for them, an amazing ENnies for Exalted Funeral. One Ring's Moria also got Best Cartography. Best Streaming Content was Mystery Quest YouTube, which is one-shot actual plays, and Seth Skorkowski's YouTube channel, which has some really great tips. He has a breakdown of exploration I'm particularly fond of. Best Online Content was gold for the One Page RPG Jam, and silver went to the Prismatic Wasteland blog. You can see all the winners on the ENNie-Awards.com website. They've updated it to have that there.
We got news from Monty Cook Games announcing a new edition for their Cypher system. This is a blog post reminding us that it's been 12 years since Numenera was released. So, it gets about that time after a decade or so that you might want to do some revisions. What will some of the changes be? It'll be genre-specific character generation, speeding up character creation for 90% of games, making it easier for new players to jump into Cypher. We have the player character damage, freeing up pools to support greater use of character abilities. Player character armor, making defensive action more interesting. A greater emphasis on character abilities that are unique and enable interesting play. And a greater emphasis on subtle ciphers, the default form of Cypher for a greater number of genres, along with streamlining of how those ciphers work.
And so those are going to be crowdfunding late summer, they said, and then it'll come out end of next year or mid next year. So that's great. That'll be a lot of nice energy for Monty Cook Games.
And on our creator corner, we don't have a product, but we have some bad news. Teos, what's a tariff update time?
Yeah, this impacts really creators of all sizes and even distribution companies. So companies that ship individual orders from abroad to the US have in the past been able to enjoy what's called a DeMinimis exemption. So if the order was $800 or less, no tariffs applied. And this has kind of existed for a really long time. And it meant that, when you buy, say, Chinese clothing or one board game, it can be manufactured in China and you're not paying the tariff on that, right? The tariff kicks in when someone's ordering, 300 units or whatever. That's the point of this exemption. Well, that exemption's gone, Shawn. So now, no matter what you're buying, that tariff gets chucked onto the price, whether it's your Chinese clothing or it's the board game made in China, this high quality production. You now have to pay that 50%, whatever it ends up being, that's for that country. And this is worldwide impact. So what's interesting is books are technically still exempt to tariffs if you can get everybody involved in the process to agree, but they legally should be exempt. So buying a book should not be a problem. But if it's something like a box set or books that come with cards or miniatures or board games or anything like that, then this de minimis would not apply and the tariffs will apply in full. Ian World has a very nice breakdown of it, so we have a link to that in the show notes.
And that is our news here on Mastering Dungeons this week.